Let's be real here. Turkey is good, but the best part of a celebratory meal are the side dishes. Here are 4 guaranteed not boring vegetarian sides that'll become your new favorites. Sumac roasted carrots with a hot honey drizzle, spicy and tangy Brussels sprouts with peanuts and cilantro, crispy smashed potatoes crusted with Parmesan and Furikake, and a Mexican street corn inspired gratin that is cheesy, limey, and delightful. Hey there! Welcome to my kitchen. My name is Sheldon, but my friends call me Sheldo, so why don't you do the same? Like you, I love a good spread of comforting holiday dishes. You know, from turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, the whole shebang. But if we really stop and think about it, this meal's kind of a missed opportunity. Usually everything's the same mushy texture, and where's the salt, fat, acid, and heat? Today, let me show you what I'm calling my new classics. Updates on familiar side dishes inspired by my favorite flavors from around the world. We've got a lot to cover, so let's dive right in. First up, carrots roasted with sumac and finished with hot honey. Sumac is a spice made up of ground berries. It's tart with citrusy flavors and notes of cranberry somewhere in there. It's so versatile and can perk up any dish. Preheat the oven to 450 Fahrenheit with the rack at the very top of the oven. I've got 2 pounds of rainbow carrots here, which are beautiful, but actually taste exactly the same as regular orange ones. So use what you can find. I've given them a good scrub, taken off most of the greens, and left the taproot because I think it's prettier this way. No need to peel either. Split any larger carrots in half lengthwise so that everything cooks more evenly. You may or may not need to do this depending on your carrots. Make a wet rub for the carrots with 3 tablespoons olive oil, 2 teaspoons kosher salt, freshly cracked black pepper to taste, 1 tablespoon honey to help the carrots caramelize, and lastly, the star ingredient, 5 teaspoons ground sumac. Stir everything together. Add the carrots to a rimmed baking sheet along with 1 entire head of garlic with the cloves separated but the skin still on. I'm using my hands to coat everything in the wet rub, doing my best to spread the sumac evenly over the carrots. Place in the oven on the very top rack and bake until the carrots are cooked through, soft, and easily pierced with the knife. This can take anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes depending on the size of the carrots. Meanwhile, place a small saucepan over medium heat. Add 170 grams or a half cup of honey, 2 teaspoons red pepper flakes, 1 teaspoon smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon dried thyme, and 1 teaspoon kosher salt. Cook this, stirring occasionally until the honey starts to boil. Turn off the heat and stir in 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. Pour everything into a bowl and let the honey cool down. See, these carrots are perfect. Soft all the way through, yet not so overcooked that they're falling apart. Transfer the cooked carrots onto a serving platter and arrange nicely. Gently peel the garlic, trying to keep the soft cloves intact. Look how golden and perfect they are. Dunk the garlic cloves into the hot honey to lightly marinate. Dot the marinated garlic all over the carrots. Drizzle with the gorgeous hot honey. Finish with some flat leaf parsley for freshness and color. And there you go, easy roasted carrots taken to the next level. The tart sumac is a great counterpoint to the sweet carrots. The hot honey is so delicious. Floral, spicy, a bit smoky, tart, and herbaceous. Pair that with the creamy roasted garlic and fresh parsley, and just yum. These Brussels sprouts are basically me summed up in a dish. Big flavor, yet so easy to make. The sprouts are roasted until charred, tender, and sweet, then tossed in a zingy dressing of chili oil and lime juice, finished with crunchy peanuts and lots of cilantro. If you only make one dish from this video, may I steer you towards these sprouts? Their spicy acidity is such a great contrast to the usual holiday spread. You can easily vary the level of spice by using more or less chili oil. Preheat the oven again to 450 Fahrenheit with the rack at the very bottom of the oven. Since these cook on the lowest rack, they're perfect to bake at the same time as the roasted carrots. I'm just saying. I've got 2 pounds of sprouts here that I've washed. To trim, slice off a bit of the stem and then the whole thing in half. Discard any tough outer leaves that naturally fall off. Repeat with all of the Brussels sprouts. Transfer to a rimmed baking sheet lined with paper towel. We need to dry off the cut side of the sprouts to maximize browning. Then remove the paper towel and drizzle over a 1/4 cup of oil. Toss so that each sprout is well coated. Arrange so that the cut sides are down, making full contact with the baking sheet. We're not going to salt the sprouts because that'll draw out moisture and inhibit browning. The dressing will be more than flavorful enough. Bake on the lowest rack until the sprouts are well browned on the bottom and to your desired tenderness. Around 13 to 18 minutes. I usually pull mine at around 15 minutes when they're just tender but still a bit crisp, but that'll depend on the size of the sprouts. While the sprouts are baking, let's make the dressing. Finely mince the white parts of 4 to 5 scallions. The scallions will marinate in the sauce, mellowing the raw onion flavor. Add 4 tablespoons lime juice, about 2 limes worth. 3 tablespoons fish sauce, and 2 tablespoons sugar. I know, fish sauce isn't vegetarian, but I do love the flavor here if I'm cooking for meat eaters or pescatarians. To make this vegetarian, replace the fish sauce with an equal amount of soy sauce. Lastly, the chili oil. I'm using 2 tablespoons of just the oil and 2 tablespoons of sediment at the bottom, but please vary the amount depending on your spice tolerance. Use either store-bought chili oil or homemade. I've got a great, easy recipe for a delicious homemade chili oil in my Bang Bang Chicken video, which would be perfect for these sprouts, so go check that out if you wish. Take just the leaves of 1 entire bunch of cilantro and 1 cup of roasted peanuts and chop them together until finely minced. By chopping the two together, the peanuts will absorb the moisture from the cilantro, allowing for a really fine mince without the cilantro turning to mush. It really transforms the flavor of both the cilantro and the peanuts. I love this technique because it works with any assortment of nuts plus leafy herbs that you can think of. When the sprouts are cooked, immediately transfer to a large mixing bowl and toss with the dressing. The hot sprouts will soak up all of the dressing, fully infusing with flavor. Then add in the majority of the peanut cilantro mix, leaving some as garnish for later. Toss everything together. Transfer to a serving plate. And garnish with the rest of the topping. Finish with a few sprigs of cilantro. I could eat this forever. It's basically just the best salad. Sweet sprouts meets bright and zingy dressing, nutty and herby topping, and lovely spicy chili oil. Not only is this good for holidays, but it's also delicious for every day. I make this all the time. These crispy smashed potatoes are crusted in Parmesan and Furikake. So what's Furikake? It's a Japanese seasoning that's eaten sprinkled over rice. It's nutty, savory, and a little bit sweet. It makes plain rice taste amazing, so why not add it to potatoes? Traditionally, a very important ingredient in Furikake is katsuobushi, also known as bonito flakes, made of smoked dried fish. It adds a smoky, salty flavor. To keep the dish vegetarian, I'm swapping in Parmesan for salty umami and smoked paprika for smokiness. Preheat the oven to 450 Fahrenheit with the racks at the very top and the very bottom of the oven. I've got 2 pounds of small baby potatoes in a pot. Add just enough cold water to cover the potatoes by about 2 inches. Then add 2 tablespoons of kosher salt. Place over high heat and let the water come to a boil, then turn the heat to medium-low. Simmer until the potatoes are soft and easily pierced with a knife, about 10 to 15 minutes. Don't overboil the potatoes because they will get too soft and fall apart when we go to smash them later. Strain the potatoes and let them sit in the colander for about 5 minutes. This will allow them to steam off all of their surface moisture, helping them get extra crisp in the oven. Transfer the potatoes onto a rim baking sheet. To smash, I'm using the lightly oiled bottom of a large measuring glass, but anything that's not too big with a flat bottom will work. Smash just enough so that the potatoes flatten, but not so much that they fall apart. Aim for around 1/2 inch thickness. Drizzle over a 1/4 cup or 56 grams of neutral oil and use your hands to gently coat each potato on both sides. It's okay if the potatoes fall apart a bit here, just smush them back together. Sprinkle grated Parmesan over the top of each potato and then turn over so that the parm side is down on the sheet. This will create a crusty, cheesy bottom on the potatoes. For this recipe, we'll need about 1/2 cup or 50 grams total of grated parm. Use about 1/3 of that now and save the rest for later. Bake on the lowest rack for 20 minutes to brown the bottoms of the potatoes. Then transfer to the top rack for the remaining time until the potatoes are golden and the edges crisp, about 15 to 20 more minutes. While the potatoes are baking, let's make the furikake topping. Combine the rest of the Parmesan with 1 teaspoon kosher salt, 2 sheets of nori cut up into fine strips, 2 tablespoons toasted sesame seeds, 1 teaspoon smoked paprika, and 2 teaspoons powdered sugar. Toss everything together to combine evenly. When the potatoes are golden and crisp, generously sprinkle over the furikake mixture. And I mean generously. There's a lot of topping, but use all of it. Whatever falls onto the tray will crisp up in the oven, and we'll use that to garnish the potatoes. Bake again for 5 minutes on the top rack to melt the Parmesan and brown up the topping. Let the potatoes cool slightly on the tray before transferring to a serving platter. Scrape up all of the remaining topping from the tray and scatter it over as a garnish. Ludicrously crisp, fluffy and creamy on the inside with a cheesy, nutty umami crust. I promise these potatoes will be gone in record time. Think Korean corn cheese meets Mexican street corn. Sweet corn in a melty, cheesy sauce, topped with fresh cheese, cilantro, and finished with a dash of lime juice. This dish will bring a ray of sunshine to your table. Dice up half of a large red onion and set aside. I've got Fresno chilies here, which are mildly spicy, but feel free to substitute with something milder like bell pepper or spicier like jalapeno. Cut the chilies in half, scoop out all of the seeds, and finely dice. To a preheated 10-inch cast iron skillet over medium heat, add 3 tablespoons of butter and swirl until foamy. Dump in about 2/3 of the diced red onions, reserving the rest for later. Add a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. The salt will help the onions soften and caramelize quicker. Cook until the onions are softened and nicely browned. We're deepening the flavor here and adding caramel notes by browning the onions. Add in 1 teaspoon of ground chipotle powder. Feel free to substitute with smoked paprika, and follow that up with freshly cracked black pepper to taste. Cook the spices until they become fragrant, about 30 seconds or so. Then go in with 750 grams or about 5 cups of frozen corn. We're using frozen corn here because it's the best option for fresh sweet corn during the winter. Not to mention that it's super convenient. At this point, preheat the broiler to high with the rack at the second from the top position in the oven. Cook the corn until all the kernels are heated through and any moisture that comes out of the corn evaporates again, about 5 minutes or so. Add in the diced chilies and the remaining red onions. Stir and cook this for a minute. Then go in with 3/4 cup or 200 grams sour cream. Please use full fat here. Cook for another minute or until the mixture is warm and bubbly. Then turn off the heat and add 1 cup or 120 grams of grated mozzarella and stir to melt all of the cheese. Use the low moisture stuff that comes in a brick here. Save your nice mozzarella for another use. Stir in 1 teaspoon of sugar to heighten the sweetness of the corn. Taste and add any additional salt if needed. I put in another 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Since we're serving straight from the skillet, now's a great time to clean up the sides of the pan as best as you can. Finally, sprinkle over a 1/2 cup or about 60 grams of grated mozzarella. Broil until the cheese is melted and the top golden brown. Don't walk away here and watch the pan so that nothing burns. Finish off with 1 1/4 cup or 200 grams of crumbled feta. Cotija would be the more authentic cheese here, but it's hard to find where I live, so I went with feta as the next best alternative. Lightly dust ground chipotle powder over the feta. Top with chopped cilantro, and finish off with lime wedges. This gratin is such a fun way to eat corn. The drizzle of lime juice at the end brightens everything, keeping it from being too heavy. You get pops of sweetness from the corn, along with the flavor of fresh chilies and onion, creaminess from the mozzarella and sour cream, salty brininess from the feta, and freshness from the cilantro. There you have it, the new classics. 4 vegetarian side dishes for your holiday table. I hope that you give at least one of these a try and maybe it can become a part of your new tradition. As always, the full written recipe can be found in the description. Thank you so much for joining me on another week of Sheldow's Kitchen. I hope to see you again very soon. Bye!